are Running with the Devils, and it's the victory show. The Devils win in Tempe. They go 1-0 in front of a record crowd, and we're here to talking everything ASU football. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, Big John Caldwell. And welcome to week 2 of the college football season. And we're so proud to be here talking everything Arizona State. And we like to say here on Running with the Devils, you give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of Arizona State football. Big John, how are we feeling up 1-0 on the season with this team?
I feel good. I mean, week ones there's so many unknowns, and it's so hard to prepare for all the little intangible stuff with a lot of new bodies. We're experienced, but there's still a lot of newness going on out there. The bar was raised really high, and I know everybody would love to have seen us completely rout these guys, but we'll get into that in a minute in terms of the the misplays, the missed opportunities, the miscues.
Yeah,
what can they fix? How can they fix it?
It wasn't the cleanest opener ASU has ever played. They certainly showed, I don't know if it was rust or maybe they were just holding back, but they definitely didn't play their A game. I think from top to bottom, there's certainly room for improvement. But hey, Kenny Dillingham even said it himself. He hates week 1 for a reason. He doesn't have stuff on film. He loves getting into the meat and potatoes of the season. And that's what we're going to try and do here on RWD as we will recap this game, of course. Talk about ASU's big win over their neighbors to the north, NAU. The NAU came in very prepared. This is their biggest game of the year, certainly their toughest opponent, the most eyeballs that are going to be on their program probably all season for a single game. So they certainly came in prepared. They had a lot of exotic, fronts and blitz packages that ASU hadn't seen before. They had struggled to pick those up. Hopefully we'll see some adjustments from that. Kenny Dillingham even admitted he got out-coached in this game, and the fact that ASU was still able to come away with a 19-point victory, even though they played, probably not their best game, but kind of sloppy. Certainly, not too much stuff you want to put on film, but still, a great turnout from the crowd, a full student section, set the home attendance record for an opener, which is always tough to do because as hot as it gets out there. But that was, was a great turnout for that. We'll get into that game here in just a minute. And then, of course, this weekend, big matchup in Stark, Vegas. The Devils go on the road for the first time in 2025, heading to Mississippi to battle the Mississippi State Bulldogs this coming Saturday. But we'll start here with this past Saturday's game where the Devils came away with the victory, topping the NAU Lumberjacks. As we mentioned, those big plays negated by penalties. Certainly a sloppy game. It was almost like we were watching a Dennis Erickson team out there with some of the penalties, 12 for 93 yards, including a couple that took one touchdown, one really big play back-to-back right off the board. One with a holding call, the other one with an illegal man downfield, just back-to-back. It just felt like every time ASU was starting to get some momentum, starting to build something, they were set back by penalties.
The most in Kenny's tenure here.
Yeah, and that's something that's got to change. Hopefully they get that cleaned up, because that was certainly not a hallmark of Kenny Dillingham's teams. They've been pretty relatively disciplined. They don't shoot themselves in the foot very, very much. So this was a bit of a surprise, but hopefully ASU comes out, they learn from this, they get stuff on film now, they're able to grow from it, and we don't see a repeat of this performance as far as the discipline goes moving forward. But, a lot to, some things to like about this game. I think Sam Levitt certainly played very well. He had a nice game, 25 of 39, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, a bad interception with about 5 minutes to go.
Right.
But I think personally, I put that on the play calling. They should have been running the ball at that point. I don't know why they went away from the run. That was just the play calling was a little bit screwy. I know they wanted to work on their passing game a little bit more, but when you got a running back averaging 10 yards a carry, I don't know why you don't feed him the ball.
The whole running, if you took in totality the whole running game between all 3 running backs and Sam, you're averaging close to 10 yards a carry.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Sam also getting it done on the ground, 73 rushing yards, including a 52-yard touchdown scamper to open the second half, which was a big play. Certainly great to see him, get out and run a little bit, use his legs as a dual threat. And then we mentioned the running game. Kyson Brown had himself a nice game as the first time as a starter. For the first time, 7 carries, 73 yards on the ground, 7 receptions for 72 yards through the air. Nice balanced game for him. Raleek Brown, nice game as well. He had a 73-yard touchdown negated by a holding call, or else this would have been much higher. But he did have the first touchdown on the season, a nice scamper that he, dodged some tackles and then got pushed into the end zone by his O-line.
And he did the Raleek dance. It was really he showed us the Raleek dance. But what's really cool about that is the fans got to see that explosive power that he has, that instant speed. And folks, he does this every day in practice. And I'm just going to go. Ryan has heard me ad nauseum say, by mid-season I predict he'll be a fan favorite.
Well, again, as long as he stays healthy, I mean, there's no reason you shouldn't be still, keep continuing to feed him the ball. He is that explosive home run threat every time he touches it. And they worked him in with Kyson Brown quite a bit. We did see, Kanye Udo, I think, had one really nice run towards the end of the game. Mm-hmm. So, but this will, they'll kind of ride the hot hand, I think, a little bit. That's kind of that's the fallacy that'll kind of be the guiding principle going forward for this running game, is just kind of whoever is the hot hand, whoever's running it running it right, to open, through the course of the game, that's who you're going to feed, especially if they're gaining, 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. But we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, I think there's enough plays for certainly everybody to eat. And, that was certainly the case in this game. And then the ASU defense, I felt like they gave up a few too many big plays, but they did put up some stats: 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, and an interception. Very nice one, by the way, by Anthony Cooper, a guy who has had so many setbacks, and the fact that he's still out there, I think he's on his 7th season.
That is correct.
Feels like it.
Grandpa.
Yeah, and he's out there, diving for interceptions. With as many injuries as he's had, that's pretty impressive.
I really like the way we had our hands up, knocking balls down and tipping balls.
And ASU's defense also 2 for 15 on 3rd down, but they did give up 3 out of 5 on 4th down too. So. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of improvement for that with that too. And if they weren't blitz, I was a little bit disappointed in the pass rush. I would have liked to see the front 4 get home a little bit more. Yeah. The quarterback Pennington did a good job stepping up in the pocket, tucking and running when he needed to. So I'll give them credit. Certainly, NAU came in with a good game plan, but would like to see ASU's pass rush get after it a little bit more without having to blitz. A couple of the DBs had sacks in this game. So
Crook came around the corner and got one. But it's coming, folks. We did not do a lot of what I call disguising of our looping and stunting and things like that. That's
the other thing too. We were very vanilla on both sides of the ball as far as the play calling goes and what we showed. You certainly don't want to put stuff too much on tape for the teams that you're going to be playing here in the next few weeks. So take it with a grain of salt. This is the opener. There is no preseason in college football. A lot of coaches treat the opener, especially when they're playing a team like this, it's in a lesser division, like a preseason game. They're trying to work on some things, maybe not show too much, be very basic in what they're doing on both sides of the ball. So I don't think we've seen the real ASU team just yet. Yeah,
you have on offense especially, you have about four really essential guys that got to get on the same page communication wise: center, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. And it starts with the center, a new center who had to communicate with that quarterback. And while you had Tyson, Tyson wasn't there all year. There's a different communication system that's got to be developed here between these guys to get on the same page. And the old adage, you always see the most improvement between game 1 and game 2. I'm not sure that's necessarily true. 1 and 2, it's really the beginning of the season, about a third of the way through the season. That's where you see. It
always felt like more of a pro football thing.
Yeah, and it really
college with no preseason. it's
Yeah,
it's usually about games 3 or 4 where you
yeah.
see
It's
what your team can really be. I mean, obviously it depends on who you're playing, but I do think we will see a little bit more creativity, a little bit more,
yeah.
a little more of the real Arizona State team, for what they're wanting to be this season,
Yeah.
this coming weekend.
There's no doubt.
So, our players of the game, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club, support local athletics. Check out Valley Athletic Booster Club. .com. Of course, hats off to them. They put on a great tailgate with all of us this weekend. Great
And we're
turnout.
we're raising a lot of money for ASU folks. If you want to get
Yeah.
involved, this is one of the ways to do it.
Yes, great organization. And for me, my players of the game this week, gotta go with Jordan Tyson. He made some terrific catches. 12 receptions, 141 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They were feeding him the ball quite a bit, especially on some screen passes and whatnot. But I mean, he's a guy that you can throw open, and he's going to go up and get the ball. So especially on that his second touchdown, that over the shoulder catch right against the sideline. We'll see a picture of it here in just a second. But that was one of the best plays I think I've ever seen. I mean, the DB actually was putting his arms out because he thought it was overthrown, and Tyson comes up with the ball and gets his foot in.
He actually had enough time to get the kind of like look down. You see a little bit of a look down, but he says he practices, and he does.
That.
He not only practiced, he went out and did it again today. Practice.
So that's something that you can just throw up, and he'll go get, and just give him a chance, and he'll usually go up and get it. And then on defense, Jordan Crook led the team in tackles with 7 total. And you mentioned that sack that he had coming off the edge, which was really great to see. A guy who, since he's come in, really, along with Keyshawn Elliott and Zyrus Fiaseu, have played very, very well in that linebacking position. You were talking about them, kind of reading and reacting almost on autopilot with, how prepared that they've been and how, ready that they are. I think you saw a little bit of that in the way that they played the run against NAU. Mm-hmm. I think we'll continue to see that through the course of this season.
And neither of us listed this player. I thought he flashed really well. Martell Hughes really impressed me at times.
He played some big snaps. Yeah, I was very impressed by him too.
He moved laterally really well. He covered east-west very, very nicely. And again, the captain Elliott made a nice tip and had a nice tackle in there too. Yeah. But it's hard to argue with these two guys. And then
there's the catch right there.
And just a millisecond, the DB's like, no, he's out. No, he's quite in.
No, afraid not.
and then Crook just takes this great. His pad height is great, and he's really coming off the ball really, really well.
He's very instinctual. I've noticed that about him. He's a guy who can, he can kind of diagnose a play and put himself in the right position quite a bit. And
he made the right move. I mean, I thought really the second half of the year he was making all kinds of plays for us. I'm just glad he came here from Oklahoma when he did, because he had 3 years ago. I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm thinking of my player. Clayton came from Oklahoma. Yeah, he came from Arkansas. No, he's in a much better program here.
Yeah. So, John, your players of the game.
Well, Sam threw. I thought really well. They really were trying to get him in a rhythm early on the shorter stuff. I know he didn't connect on some of the longer stuff, and that'll come around just like it did last year. But we already went through his stats. But it was his legs probably his most impressive. In other words, and the cool thing was, on SportsCenter and all the clips that people showed around the country, there's saying Sam Levitt is still in the Heisman race because of his legs. That 52-yard run was masterful. He really read the field really well. And I put Clayton in here only because he had one less tackle than Crook. He led the team in assists, and I place a really high emphasis on assists. I mean, tackling's hard, and to be the first guy is one thing, but usually it takes 2 guys to bring somebody down, especially good running backs. So I always look for that. Who's making that second tackle or that assisting? I place a really high value on guys that can come in and help close. A lot of times the tackle is made because of the second guy. So he was my assist guy. or he was the team leader in assists. And that's just one of those little stat things that I always look for. Ryan, it's subtle, but you
Yeah.
know, everybody likes to look for sacks and TFLs and tips and interceptions, but assists are really a great calling card.
And you
Great
still
calling
want
card.
somebody. You want somebody who's going to get after it, who's going to stick their face in the fire, be around the ball,
Yeah.
and all that. And yeah, that's certainly Clayton Smith. I mean, even if he's not getting to the quarterback a ton, he's still setting the edge, doing what he can to play his position and play it well. And yeah, I felt like he did that, pretty well in this game. Certainly would have liked to seen a little bit more pressure on the quarterback than what we saw.
Yeah.
But again, they did blitz a little bit from the DBs.
Yeah.
But
But
I think I think the pass rush will come along just like most of the other things. Time when they get more things on film, and it'll come around.
What you didn't see, you didn't see Clayton or any of the ends, looping inside of the tackles. Any of that,
True.
you saw none of that stuff yet.
No, not a lot of stunting and whatnot.
No, correct. So they're staying cool in the pocket. And I thought probably the weakest thing that they needed the most work on, besides the penalties, was our pass protection.
They got home way too much, and part of that was Dillingham mentioned that in his post game press conference, talked about the exotic coverage and the front, the bare front that they played, unbalanced, the pre-snap movement, a lot of things that they don't really see a ton of in their conference.
Right.
That NAU really sprung on them, and that created opportunities to get at the quarterback. I would have liked to see them prepare, adjust a little bit more for that, but now they have that on film. I know other teams are probably going to try something similar against ASU. They saw how successful it was, but Dilly also made a point of saying that they were going to work on, protecting against that, work on, expecting that, preparing for chaos and whatnot, sure. what other teams were sure to throw at them.
Right.
So, this is kind of leads into our discussion of the week. Did the Devils just straight up disappoint, or were they holding back against NAU? I think one kind of feeds into the other. Because they did hold back, they disappointed. It certainly wasn't the best showing, especially when you look at last season what they did against Wyoming, and you also look at everybody talks about they NAU good team. This isn't
playoffs.
NAU to the past. They're they went to the playoffs last year. They're ranked, but again, so was South Dakota, and they got boat raced by Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. It's not fair to make that comparison, especially week one. We don't know what the team is just yet, but I would have liked to seen a little better showing from ASU, especially from a discipline standpoint. All those penalties, very sloppy, very reminiscent of ASU teams of the past that I thought we were kind of past at this point with this coaching staff putting an emphasis on discipline. And I get it. The refs were probably calling a few things a little closer than they probably would have, but I don't know. I just feel like I would have liked to see a little bit better showing, certainly, but at the same time, I feel like this is still a team. We haven't seen the best version of ASU just yet.
Now, do you know was that a Big 12 officiating team?
I believe it was, okay. But I mean, hey,
because they were talking about
a little spotty to begin with. So
because I heard Kenny and even Arroyo talking about resetting their hand positions, and that may have just been that's where they've been in practice or in camp, but they kind of learned that the reps want it a little lower and a little tighter, kind of,
Yeah.
And the standard changes. For me, there's that word standard. I think the standard was set very, very high, and it should be after last year and the execution they had. And so you have to ask yourself, yes, did they meet that standard? And I think even the players will tell you, no, they didn't. And so they were disappointed in themselves. So you heard a lot of players saying, B minus, kind of a grade if you had to put a grade on it. But so yeah, it's disappointing even to the players. But just as we left really 14 to 17 points on the field just by a missed field goal. I know it was long,
No.
but two
Just the
TDs.
penalties, I think, kind of stick
Penalty,
out.
yeah. Well, that's an extra 200
You
yards,
know,
and
and also I mentioned this earlier in the show too. The play calling I felt like was a little,
well,
I don't know, skewered. I mean, I get that you want to get the passing game going. You want your quarterback in a rhythm, but when you're running for 10 yards a carry and you're blowing guys off the ball the way ASU was, I don't know. I just feel like that's something you got to feed into a little bit more, especially down the stretch when you're, I get that there's not much danger, especially when NAU put their backups in as early as they did. But you still, I feel like they should have established, they established the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They were winning at the line of scrimmage, feed into that and use the running attack a little bit more.
I think the game plan was to have been up by at least 1 to 2 more scores by half, so that the starters would only be in one series and then out. It didn't go that way. So we were still trying to figure out a lot of communication stuff, and but that's what the first game is the hardest to scheme. I can see it now because of all the stuff you don't know. You
only have so much on film, and it changes so much now with all the transfers. You get so many new personnel year to year. It becomes harder to prepare for. So, yeah, that is something to take into account as well. Certainly, hopefully ASU kind of takes this film and just kind of fixes their mistakes, so they're not making the same ones week after week.
The good news is, they brought the official. We pay for officials almost every practice, folks, and the first day back in pads, they had officials, and there was not one penalty. So they know what they know. They were, they went through every single thing with them in film and schematically, I'm sure, but there was not one penalty in practice with real officials. I mean, really good paid officials. So.
Yeah. I don't think this is something you read too much into a game like this. You certainly think that the pass protection you'd like to see be better. But again, NAU was using a lot of different things, different fronts that most teams don't really use. That bare front where they overload the box.
I'd be willing to say
throwing so many screens because they were trying to slow down the pass rush.
Yeah, I would be willing to say we won't see defensive schemes that exotic in our conference.
Probably not.
No.
Yeah. You may see some elements of it because NAU used it so well. You might see some teams incorporate some of those blitz schemes, but it'll probably be few and far between, especially if ASU adjusts for it and it's not as successful as NAU made it look.
Sure.
But we'll get a look at that. We'll get a look at that going forward. Certainly want to see the pass protection hold up.
So do we have one more year with NAU? Is that under contract?
They're not. Well, I mean, we're supposed to play Bowling Green in the opener next year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because whatchamacallit backed out.
Yeah, and Morgan. Now it's Morgan State, so that's who we're playing next season. I mean, I'm sure we'll see NAU, at some point down the road. But
that's not an able thing from the regents that says we have to play them. It's strictly who do we want to play? How does it work out? But
we're the ones paying, so we get to choose.
Yeah. Do you know how much we pay them?
Wasn't it $250K?
No, 2 game is a 2-game contract pays $1.5 million.
Oh, wow!
So $750 a game, or I'm not sure it's equal, but
I'm probably thinking of. I think there was a game week 1. The team got upset that they paid $250K for.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but there was one of those paid games where the team that got paid came in and got the win.
I think that was the one that Herm got fired on.
Well, that was the Eastern Michigan game.
Michigan
a few years ago, but I was talking about this year. There was one.
Oh, with it last week.
With other teams.
Yes, there was. I saw it.
So, we'll see how how everything holds up going into this week against a tougher opponent. And that leads into our preview this week of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, obviously in the SEC down there in Starkville. They came into Tempe last year. ASU jumped on them to the tune of a 30-3 halftime lead. Mississippi State came in, made it a game down the stretch, but with Cam Scattaboo, luckily ASU was able to salt the game away towards the end and come out with a 30-23 win, their first win over an SEC opponent in school history. And now, we got the second half of the home and home as we go down to Stark Vegas, as it's called. Very interesting place, and I know there's going to be a nice contingent of Devils supporters down there. I know my good friend Jeff Singer is come down from Virginia for that game. But yeah, Mississippi State comes into this game 1-0. They went into Hattiesburg, big trip for them, and played in the in-state team Southern Miss, and came away with a 34-17 victory. They only led 13-10 at the half, though, so it was a ball game at one point. But it's with that offense that they run. Mississippi State tends to run a lot of teams into the ground and wear them down into the second half, and that's what they did in this game. And certainly poured it on down the stretch. And head coach Jeff Lebby, in his second season, didn't have a lot of success the first year, with the injuries to his quarterback Blake Shapen. They did not win a game in the SEC last year, finishing 2-10. But they had a nice transfer portal influx of talent. So they were trying to get better, especially on defense, where they were one of the worst in the nation last year. They give up like 35 points a game defensively last year, and so they were really trying to get better. And hey, they're ranked preseason middle of the pack in the SEC, so certainly an improvement, you would think, for the Bulldogs. Hopefully, at least improving from last season, which they can only go up from.
Usually, those preseason rankings are 90% based on where you finished last year. So obviously, the writers got hip to the fact that they brought in some players, and you're usually a coach's second year, things start to really gel.
Yeah, and especially with Jeff Lebby's offense.
There you go.
He is an offensive guy. He was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma before he got the Mississippi State job. He's an Art Briles disciple from Baylor. Running that veer and shoot is almost a carbon copy of the one that Art Briles ran with so much success at Baylor. It starts with their quarterback Blake Shapen, who had a bad shoulder injury 4 games into the season last year, missed the final 8 games of 2024, and that kind of torpedoed their whole season. They only won 1 game the rest of the way after that with a true freshman under center. But he's back this year, was back for the spring. He looked really good in their first game, 26-34, 270 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And this is not a great running team, but we have a couple guys who are certainly capable. Devon Booth is a holdover from last year. He's probably going to be the main guy, at least initially. They have kind of a two-headed monster. They'll work both him and Fluff Bothwell, the South Alabama transfer, who had a great season last year. But Devon Booth, 759 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. Bothwell coming over, he had 832 yards and 13 touchdowns last year. And both those guys got in against Southern Miss and both, found the end zone. So certainly a couple guys that you're going to watch out for. I think Mississippi State is going to want to, establish the run. They, added some offensive linemen that they're very excited about, and they feel like they should have more success running the ball this year.
They are a run first team, and folks, they're going to try to run pace like we haven't seen.
Oh yeah.
Nobody has seen, and in fact, so much so that they actually. In the game that they just played, I think they actually got in a couple of plays, snuck a couple of plays, and maybe got a score off of them just based on how fast they execute. And
and that's why they wore down Southern Miss in the second half. That's why they were able to, kind of pour it on the way they did because they run a frenetic pace. They run a fast pace.
The whole game,
like a NASCAR offense almost. It's just, they're up to the line. They're going real quick. They don't do a lot of substitutions. They're go. They want to keep the defense on their heels and tired and unprepared for the next play, and that's the way that their offense goes. And it's a double-edged sword. When it works, it's very tough to stop, and it can wear you down very quickly. But you kind of put the onus on your defense if you're not continuously moving the chains
Right.
on offense. So,
Right.
We'll see how ASU plays out. I know they've been preparing for that all week, with the pace, and then of course the cowbells. They are going to ring out nonstop in that game, and the ASU's got like a bunch of people ringing those nonstop during practice this week. So hopefully they'll have the communication down, from play to play, and not let Mississippi State get a lot of cheap yards.
It kind of reminds me of high school football. It really does. Where you go to a team and
that reminds me of the way Oregon used to play under Chip Kelly. They would run pace.
Oh, I'm talking about the Cowboys.
Non-stop, and then they would slow it down once they got a lead on you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
run clock, but
I'm talking about the high school cowbells.
Oh,
yeah, I used to see it a lot with teams Swirl would play. They'd bring in the cowbells, hoping it would help. It didn't help.
Well, for them, no. But I mean, that's kind of Mississippi State's thing.
Yeah. Do you know the story of how the cowbell came about there?
I don't. I'm sure a lot of people don't either. So please inform us.
There was a game where a cow actually wandered onto the field, and the farmer, the rancher, came on and had to lead him off with a cowbell, and immediately the next week everybody had a cowbell, and it just grew and grew from there. But it was an actual cow got on the field during a game, doing a real game.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, but I love those stories. How some of these traditions start.
Especially with the best.
with DW Stadium, certainly one of the loudest and most distracting in the college football game with what they do between the cowbells and how loud it gets, and they're very well known for their tailgates as well.
Oh yeah.
So certainly a passionate fan base, even though their teams haven't had the most success recently. But and then just sticking with the offense here, Oklahoma transfer Brennan Thompson has come in and kind of become Blake Shapen's new favorite target. He had 7 receptions for 92 yards against Southern Miss. Didn't have a ton of success at Oklahoma. Was kind of buried on the depth chart, but a very promising player, very highly rated when he was in high school. Certainly somebody that can come in, because they lost their leading receiver from last year who had about 800 yards. Jordan Mosley, who's team captain, was one of the few holdovers from last season. Had a decent year, 23 receptions, 405 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But I think certainly a guy that that Shapen is familiar with, and that he's going to look for out there. And also his tight end, Seyu Traore, had a touchdown catch against Southern Miss. He had a nice season last year as well, 34 catches, 361 yards, and a score. So that's certainly something that you got to watch out for. They will use the tight end in this offense very well.
Yeah, they did.
And then they are a little bit banged up on the offensive line, though. A couple guys. Blake Steen got hurt just before halftime against Southern Miss. Luke Work missed the Southern Miss game. So both of those guys are starters. So we'll see how if they're able to play against the Sun Devils on Saturday. And then Mississippi State's defense. Mentioned 125th ranked overall last season. They're certainly trying to improve on that with all the transfers that they brought in. They were certainly trying to get better along the defensive front. They brought in some nice players to run that 3-4 base. Jalen Smith, who was a freshman All-SEC linebacker last year for Tennessee, he comes over. He had 7 tackles. He led the team with 7 tackles in the opener. Nick Mitchell was a holdover from last season, 80 tackles, 3 tackles for loss and interception. He's a guy who runs. It's kind of he plays the middle linebacker well, but he runs. Drops into pass coverage, runs sideline to sideline quite a bit. Does a lot of coverage for them. The linebackers are the ones that are going to really benefit in this 3-4 base that they like to run. The D linemen kind of just eat space and try to defend against the run. But whereas it's the linebackers going out there, the linebackers and safeties going out there making the plays. And then going on here to the secondary, They got a couple guys in Isaac Smith, who led the SEC in tackles last year with 127. He's a good player for them, veteran player for them. And then Brylan Lanier had an interception in the opener, and he's a guy who plays that safety position well. He'll come down in the box and play the run as well. Definitely a couple guys that you got to watch out for. And then one guy they're very excited about, a Texas A&M grad transfer, Malik Silla, had a nice pass deflection in the opener. He's a guy that they like to bring off the edge in pass rush, somebody that they're very excited about, as well as another D lineman, Red Hibbler. Didn't have too many opportunities in the Southern Miss game, but a guy they're very high on, an NC State transfer who a couple years ago, as a redshirt freshman, had 6.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles for the Wolfpack. So a couple guys that they brought in, they're very high on, and they feel like this defense can take a step forward and not be quite the liability that it was in 2024.
Wasn't one of their safeties the really tall, good-looking athlete? God,
probably, but I'm not sure which.
I just remember one of
both of them were. Both of these guys were on the team last year.
Yeah,
Smith and Lanier.
Smith is 6 foot 220, so he's. But I could have sworn one of those guys was really tall, and last year, and it was kind of giving us. He just looked great the way he moved back there. Anyway, enough of that.
But their defense is certainly improved. I don't think it'll be quite the turnstile that it was last year when they were giving up 35 points a game. It should be improved, and so ASU is definitely going to need to be on their game against this group. So as we move on here to our keys of the game, presented by Sleep in Heavenly Peace, a great nonprofit that builds beds for families in need. Please support Sleep in Heavenly Peace. For me, we need less cowbell. We got to, I mentioned this last week. I felt like it was, a fast start was going to be key to take the wind out of NAU sails. We jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And I feel like that's something similar you got to do to Mississippi State. Take the crowd out of the game, get those cowbells quieted, certainly control the clock so that, if Mississippi State tries to run that hurry up, the pace that they like to run, it's not going to be as effective. You're going to have a rested defense if you're able to slow things down, move the chains, and don't let that opposing offense get into any kind of rhythm. And then on offense as well, you got to spread the wealth. And this was a problem for me. I felt like that Sam Leavitt was looking for Jordan Tyson and forcing the ball into him a little bit too much. I would like to have seen Jalen Moss, Jaron Hamilton, Shimon Mateer, Malik McLean, all those guys get some touches in, at least get some more plays in. The Bulldogs, they know what Jordan Tyson is. They know what he's about. They're going to probably shade coverage to his side to try to take away him as much as possible. So that Sam Leavitt's going to have to look for other guys to feed the ball to in order to move the ball downfield. And I certainly hope that he'll do that, go through his progressions quickly, and find the open man, and not just look for one guy out there.
Yeah, I remember last week, folks, we talked about the fact that our 2 wide receivers flip sides all the time too. So I expect that will start coming into play. And when you put 2 guys who are really difficult to cover, like Turbo and Tyson, it's going to be.
Or if get Turbo some run. I mean, I think he only played 1 snap against NAU. I mean, I know they were probably holding him back, but
they were.
Still like to see him get some more run out there. I'd like to see Jalen Moss. Jalen Moss is a great possession receiver. Let him go out there and catch the ball. I know that they're running very vanilla scheme, not trying to put too much on film, but this is a game I feel like you can open up the playbook a little bit and give some other guys some opportunities.
And I think they will, based on what Arroyo said after practice today, they will. And he had that little sly smile that, it was by design, folks.
Okay.
So
I'm sure it was. I just, want to make my position felt.
I had people write me saying, we had no game plan. We had a game plan. Okay. Our game plan was to
not no game plan, just a very basic one, I think.
Yeah. And I think what happened was, but because we weren't up by 1 to 2 more scores at half, we went into something different. Anyway, We've got to line up quickly, folks, and that means you've got to communicate. And there was a little communication issues going on last week, and I think they will fix that, especially between the linebackers and the DBs. And then we're going to need more explosive plays on defense. What I mean by that, and that's going to result in more takeaways. Okay, so and that's going to come through really disguising your defense a little bit more. So that's things to look for, and they're keys to me. And I'm echoing what Ryan said. We got to get up to a fast start. But how you do that is you got to be a better early down passing team. I know we ran the ball, but I think you're going to see with bringing out more of the playbook and more receivers, you're going to have to force them to go ahead and put more people up get out of that 3-4. And come up and run a 4-2 and try to slow us down, slow down the running, and then you break.
Well,
out
we're going to run when we run the spread. We have multiple receivers. Yeah, they're going to shift into a nickel.
They're going to go to a
nickel. It's going to have more. It's probably going to have more 4-down linemen with the 2 linebackers and the 3 corners.
You must. You must
to match up with us. So you'll see some variations out there.
So just to put some names, you're going to hear us talk about Turbo, and that's Hamilton. And then Kamari Anderson, AJ Ia. He was a little dinged up going into the game last week. I think he's suited. He didn't play. Harpole was in maybe 1 or 2 snaps.
Hopefully we see AJ out there, getting some snaps. I know. Yeah, like you said, he was dinged. I don't think he even dressed against NAU. So hopefully he does make the trip to Starkville as well.
And I'd even list people like Eswabo and who got a reception last week. So there's other people in here. Guys, we have an abundance of talent at this position. It's just a matter of.
Well, we talked about that in the preview. Certainly, that it was certainly an influx of talent from the transfer portal. We also have some good looking freshmen, with the receivers and the tight ends. So there was going to be, you just want to see it show up on.
Yeah, but you want to
when they get into game,
you want to keep developing these players, because if you lose a Tyson again, and you go into a playoff and a bowl game, you need to have some players develop. So and it worked out with having a senior guy like auxiliary X last year and Stovall being ready to play. They weren't they weren't Tyson, but they sure were. They sure were darn good receivers. But I'm telling you, we are deeper, and you're going to have to see more of these. I call it bringing out the weapons. So Ryan and I are really saying the same thing. He wants to distribute the ball more. I say it's time to. If you set up the game plan correctly, you'll see a lot more guys, a lot more.
But at the same time, though, I feel like if the running game is working,
yes,
don't go away from it. Run until they stop you. Because that was Mississippi State's problem last year. They were giving up a lot of yards on the ground.
That's right.
They're taking steps in the transfer portal to remedy that, but they haven't faced a team quite like ASU with our ability to get downhill and run the ball the way we have in the past. Certainly, we love it with this O-line. And we had some guys dinged a little bit against NAU, but looks like they're going to be good to go this weekend as well. So certainly like to see some more out of the running game as well. So those are keys to the game, presented by Sleep in Heavenly Peace, for great, support a great nonprofit that builds beds for families in need. Please support Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And moving on here, it's prediction time, and we are very similar once more in our prediction. I have ASU winning by 8. John has them winning by 7. John thinks it's going to be a little bit, it's a little bit higher on the score there. I think ASU's defense will show up and limit the Bulldogs in a stretch, and that's where ASU will kind of pull away. From maybe in the middle 8. That could certainly happen. ASU is in the middle 8. That's what they focus on. I feel like when you look at that stretch of time, I feel like that's one where ASU can get us stops and scores, at least 2 preferably. And I feel like that's where they'll take control of the game and ultimately pull away.
No, I think we'll get ourselves in a position to probably get a couple of field goals out of this. I think you want to try to end every possession with a kick of some sort,
with points on the board.
With points, yeah. And I think I give them credit for trying the long field goal last week because they have a kicker.
Yeah, it was right before. It was right at the half. I mean,
yeah, and he had nothing to lose. But my point is that you have a kicker who's capable of kicking it from 65, and it just didn't work out for him. But
well, he was short from 57, but I mean,
yeah,
that's a lot to put on a college kicker.
Well, and he likes kicking in that stadium a lot more than kicking over at Kachikawa. You can't kick inside. He's too good of a kick. You know, he doesn't kick in the bubble, but he kicks outside, and it's a lot windier over there than it is in the stadium. And what he told me is, Jesus told me that he likes the stadium kicking because he's got markers up in the stands that he's looking at. And he didn't have that outside. He didn't have these marker points that he references from. So. Yeah, I expect that to turn around.
Nice.
But right, I thought special teams played really well. I really did in this game.
Well, they did give up that one big kick return. Yes. But I mean, hey, Kenyon Floyd, special teams player, Big 12 special teams player of the week. So punt coverage was really good.
It was.
I thought for a couple times he actually outkicked his coverage.
He did. Yeah, the 55 yarder.
Yeah, came down and were able to cover it pretty well. So yeah, I mean they did. NAU did have that one long kick return where there was just this wide open lane right up the middle.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, special teams very strong. Which was an issue last year at times. So, certainly good to see in the opener for the most part. Yeah, special teams had a good game. So that'll do it for us. The kickoff 4:30 local time on ESPN2. No streaming this week. For those of you who had issues, I know I was getting a lot of texts from people talking about, couldn't watch the game. What's going on? But won't have that issue this week. It's on ESPN2, so certainly tune in.
You didn't like the Leroy Neiman esque picture? Yeah, you're too young to remember Leroy Neiman, the artist. Used to do famous art pictures all the time.
There's a fun way to end the show. We'll see you next week here on Running with the Devils. So for now, we say goodbye, good night, go Devils, forks up, break the Bulldogs.
Let's go, baby.